Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror action movie called The Mummy. The Tom Cruise one, not the good one. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie opens in 1127 AD when a group of English Crusader knights captures a massive red ruby from ancient Egypt. They bury it in the tomb of one of their own, hoping that no one will find it. The scene then shifts to present-day London, where a construction crew uncovers several knights' tombs in the same location. A scientist named Henry Jekyll of Jekyll and Hyde fame, remember this movie was the birth of the death of the birth of a cinematic universe, investigates the site and suspects the tomb is related to the story of Amenet. She was an ancient Egyptian princess who was purposefully erased from history by her own people. Through a flashback to ancient Egypt, we see the story of Princess Amenet, who was the only daughter of a pharaoh. She was trained as a warrior and was supposed to rule the kingdom after her father. However, her plans were foiled when her dad remarried and had another son, who then became the heir. Despite this, the princess refused to give up her inheritance and made a pact with Set, the Egyptian god of death. He promised her great power if she helped him take a human body so that they could rule together as king and queen. He then gave her a special dagger to transfer his spirit into corporeal form. Upon grasping the dagger, Amenet gained superpowers. Her body also became covered in tattoos, her eyes turned reddish, and her pupils doubled. She then entered her father's bedroom and murdered him, his wife, and their newborn son in cold blood, just getting ahead of it in case they called her Four Eyes. Afterward, Amenet attempted to sacrifice her lover to give physical form to the god Set, but before she could do that, some priests intervened and killed her lover. For her sins of murdering her family, Amenet was condemned to be mummified alive and sealed in a sarcophagus. She was then buried in Mesopotamia in a tomb filled with mercury to prevent her evil spirit from ever escaping. The scene then cuts to present-day war-torn Iraq, where we meet two American militants, Sergeant Nick Morton and Corporal Chris Vale. You can tell Nick is going to die because his last name isn't as cool. Wait, who plays Nick? Oh, never mind. They are currently defying their superiors' orders and driving into a village overrun by insurgents. It turns out that Nick wants to search for valuable artifacts from the ancient world that they can smuggle back and sell on the black market. However, Chris is clearly against this, as it could get them into trouble, and the place is also not safe. Not long after, the duo is ambushed by enemies from all sides, with gunfire raging everywhere. They try to fight back, but they're running out of ammo, and the insurgents are in overwhelming numbers. With no other option, Nick orders an airstrike to eliminate the insurgents. Soon after, some military aircraft arrives, and the village is destroyed by missiles launched from above. He didn't even have a 3-kill spree. Several explosives then occur, collapsing the Earth's top layer and opening a hole in the ground. Nick and Chris are sucked into it, and they shockingly discover a massive sarcophagus in there, which is actually Amenet's tomb. Since the artifact is too heavy to steal, the duo informs their commanding officer, Colonel Greenway, of their discovery. Shortly after, Greenway arrives with several soldiers to investigate the valuable find. Along with him is a British archaeologist, Jenny Halsey, who immediately slaps Nick upon seeing him. It turns out the two had a one-night stand in Baghdad a few days earlier. Nick nicknamed himself Teabag Daddy. It was so hot. But while she was asleep, he stole her map of this place and sneaked out. Following this, Nick, Chris, and Jenny grab their flashlights and head inside the eerie hole to investigate. Once there, they discover a tomb that appears to be guarded by sphinxes. The strange thing is that the sphinxes are facing inward rather than outward, and several chains are holding the sarcophagus down. Jenny examines the find and realizes that the contents are worth millions of pounds. As they explore further, they notice mercury flowing everywhere. Jenny then reveals that in ancient Egyptian mythology, mercury is believed to weaken the power of demons. Upon seeing such an eerie place, Chris gets scared and suggests that they leave, but the others refuse. This irritates the guy, so he shoots the chain that is holding the sarcophagus in place, causing it to rise. Immediately afterward, a large group of camel spiders appears out of nowhere, and one of them even bites Chris. Meanwhile, Nick experiences a vision of Princess Amenet, who thanks him for freeing her and calls him my chosen one. But Jenny brings him back to his senses and asks for his help in getting the tomb out of the place. After this, they place the sarcophagus on the aircraft and head for London. Chris, who had been bitten by the spider, begins to show bizarre behavior. He tries to open the sarcophagus for no apparent reason. When Greenway forbids him from doing so, Chris violently stabs him. This alarms the rest of the soldiers and they get ready to retaliate. Nick wrestles a gun from one of them and threatens to shoot if they hurt his friend. However, when the possessed Chris tries to attack him, Nick is forced to kill him himself. At this moment, the plane is bombarded by a huge flock of crows. They break through the glass and immediately kill the pilot and co-pilot. This causes the aircraft to free fall, and it looks like no one is going to survive. With the clock ticking, Nick saves Jenny's life by giving her the only parachute he can find and throwing throwing her overboard. Not long after, the plane crashes in the English countryside, and all the passengers aboard are killed. The next day, we see the dead bodies of the soldiers laid out in a morgue room, but Nick, who had been declared dead, suddenly wakes up and rips up the plastic bag. He looks at himself and is shocked to discover that he has no signs of any scars or injuries. Just then, Chris's ghost appears and informs Nick that he is cursed by Aminette, who seeks to use him as a vessel for Set. Before he can explain any further, Jenny and some doctors enter the morgue. They cannot see Chris's ghost, but they are shocked to find Nick alive and well. Elsewhere at the crash site, 2 officers are inspecting the wreckage. One of them notices that the sarcophagus has been broken open during the crash. He spots Aminette's mummy and calls his partner over to take a look, but suddenly Aminette wakes up and stabs him in the eye with her hand. She then kills him and sucks the energy out of his mouth. Moments later, the second officer arrives and is horrified to find the mutilated corpse of his partner. He tries to run, but Aminette kills him and drains his energy as well. This process regenerates her and gives her more human features. After gaining some energy, she orders the 2 corpses to rise as zombies and become her slaves. In another scene, Nick and Jenny are in the pub, trying to make sense of how he came back to life. Jenny thanks him for saving her and explains that she read the hieroglyphs on the sarcophagus. She then explains the story about the Egyptian princess Aminette and the god of death, Set. Jenny also informs him about an ancient artifact known as the Dagger of Set. Its handle is topped with a ruby, and only the knife and the stone together can give Set the power to gain a physical form. Jenny is certain that this artifact is hidden somewhere in Europe, as it was stolen by English crusaders. Afterward, the duo arrives at the site of the crashed plane, but Nick further leads the bewildered Jenny into an ancient, abandoned building. It turns out to be the resting place of the tombs, where the English crusaders were buried. While exploring the site, Nick blacks out and suddenly finds himself inside a church, where several zombies capture and restrain him. At this moment, Aminette makes her grand entrance and calls him her chosen one. She then destroys a statue, revealing the dagger that had been hidden within. Aminette tries to finish the ritual that will transform Nick into Set, but she stops abruptly when she notices the ruby is missing from the dagger's hilt. Jenny also arrives at the spot, which distracts Aminette and her zombies. The enraged princess rushes to attack Jenny, giving Nick the opportunity to free himself. He fights off the zombies using the dagger and manages to subdue them. The duo then escapes the place and drives away in their van, but several zombies appear in their path, causing the van to swerve and crash. In the aftermath, Aminette slowly approaches the wreck, but then suddenly, several armed men show up and shoot her with mercury-tipped bullets. They successfully restrain her and also help the duo get out of the wreckage. In the next scene, Nick and Jenny arrive at a facility that is hidden beneath the Natural History Museum of London. As Nick walks through its halls, he notices strange artifacts, including a skull with fangs and a scaly forearm. He eventually meets Henry Jekyll, who turns out to be Jenny's boss. The scientist introduces himself as the leader of Prodigium, a secret organization devoted to uncovering and containing dark forces.
I'm the Samuel L. of this bitch.
Meanwhile, Aminette is heavily restrained, with mercury pumped through her veins to keep her subdued. Henry then informs Nick that his facility is the only one capable of removing his curse, but Aminette says that his fate is sealed and the curse cannot be undone. Meanwhile, another archaeological team of Prodigium is seen excavating the Crusader's tomb. They unexpectedly discover the ruby, which Aminette also learns of with her powers. To break free, she summons a spider and orders it to crawl into the ear of a Prodigium technician. The possessed technician then destroys the component of the machine that pumps mercury into her veins. Later, Henry and the team are also informed about the discovery of Ruby. Henry tries to inject himself with a serum, but Nick stops him and demands answers about what they intend to do next. The scientist reveals that they must kill Nick, as he is the vessel Aminette has chosen to bring Set into the world. This enrages Nick, but Henry insists that it is a necessary sacrifice for the greater good of humanity. Not willing to give up on his life, Nick steals Henry's serum and tries to flee, but this proves to be a huge mistake. It turns out the scientist has a split personality, and he regularly injects the serum to prevent the transformation. He now loses control and transforms into a sadistic and violent alter ego.
Mr. Hyde!
Well, Pagemaster reference. Upon seeing this, the guard manages to take Jenny away. Nick, however, remains locked inside with the awakened monster, who begins to brutally beat him. Jenny desperately tries to break through the bulletproof glass to save him, but to no avail. Just when things look bleak for our hero, he manages to grab the syringe and injects it into the enraged scientist. After the situation finally calms down, Nick and Jenny leave the facility to find the ruby and destroy it. On the other hand, Aminette manages to free herself from her chains and kills several soldiers. She sucks the life energy from many Prodigium men before retrieving the dagger of Set. Afterwards, she unleashes her dark powers to shatter all the glass in the Prodigium headquarters. She then arrives at the Crusader's tomb and resurrects the knights' corpses. Under her command, the zombies swiftly slaughter all